What's up YouTube? Today I want to talk about 5 interesting uses for Devious Machine's Infiltrator. So if you don't know what this plugin is, I would highly suggest checking out a video by Venus Theory. He does a really good introduction. And I also just want to say a quick thanks to Devious Machines for sending me this plugin for the purpose of this video. I was actually planning on getting the plugin anyway because it just looked so damn cool. And there's a couple of things in here that are perfect for certain things within Psytrance. And yeah, I want to dive into those things today and we can investigate 5 interesting uses for this plugin. Let's dive in and have a look. So first and foremost, I want to look at how we can use this plugin to enhance leads. Maybe you've got something that you've used from a preset, or there's a particular synth that you like the sound of that maybe doesn't allow enough control in terms of modulation and movement, or you've maybe rendered something in as audio and you just want to add a little bit more movement to the sound. Then this plugin is perfect for that kind of thing because it offers you so many different types of effects and filters and so on and so forth, and also the ability to modulate them in really interesting ways. We've got a advanced kind of LFO which we can draw shapes into in various different ways. We've got preset kind of parameters for signs, randoms, all sorts of things like that. And we can also use an audio envelope to kind of create interesting modulations to filters and effects and all sorts of stuff within the patch. I'm going to go through as much as I can within this video of the features within the plugin, but I also just want to show you the kind of more creative uses or how I would use them in a project. So I've got a lead here that I like the sound of, but you know, in a bigger arrangement it might be a little bit static. We might want to add a little bit of movement here or there, maybe some LFOs and that kind of thing, but I've already rendered it as audio. So we can jump in here and start to think about interesting ways which we can create movement, maybe sort of sequence different LFO shapes and speeds and that kind of thing using this plugin. So I quickly want to show you an example of the sound that we're dealing with, and yeah, then we can dive into some of the features. So firstly, let's play with sequencing some modulations like LFOs and that kind of thing on something simple like a filter. So I'm just going to enable the plugin, and just by default we've already got a filter enabled on the first slot. So we can go ahead and we can either kind of just play it in with the parameter over here, or we can apply an LFO using this parameter over here. So if we put in a shape over here, you can see that how it's actually modulating this shape, and then the speed for this LFO would be over here. So the plugin has a sequencer over here, and how it works is it basically allows you to sequence what effects are playing at what time. So if we press this play button, you'll see it's kind of going crazy over here, but we can actually change the speed. So let's say, for example, 1/4. So every kick represents one of these little blocks over here. So we can choose when the thing is being filtered and when it's not being filtered, or we can sequence through various different effects. And this becomes particularly interesting, say, for example, if we copy this by holding Alt and just dragging it over here, and then going over to our sequence and then sequencing it like this, and then just kind of expanding it a little bit like this. And let's do it again so that we've got 4 of these. And now we can actually dive into these and play with the different modulations and stuff for each one. And now we're sequencing this kind of like movement of the filters. And now we're not limited to only low-pass filters. You've got various different filters which you can choose here, various different like models of filters. So we've got ladder, clean, 101, all sorts of stuff like that. So for example, let's choose like a band pass on some of them. Let's choose like a model 20 high pass on some of them. So we can get really creative here, and we can also stack them up. So here we can add like various other effects like phases, flanges, and that kind of thing as well. So we can get super creative with it. And we can change the loop length by moving this selector over here. And then we can jump back and, let's say, for example, set it to a faster speed. And so we can get a little bit more like technical with the cuts. And then we can just double up on when we want these things to kind of play, like something like this. So we can stack it up with delays on some of those parts as well. Let's add in something interesting like a phaser, which we can go and play throughout the entirety of the arrangement. And here, the interesting thing about the phaser, it kind of acts very similarly to a filter in that it doesn't move unless you actually modulate it. So let's put in a sine wave modulation like this, and we can slow it down real slow. Now let's say, for example, we want the phaser before the delay. We can actually hold control and you'll see it, and drag it over, and you'll see it highlights with a little tooltip saying swap. So that'll swap the order of these two effects. And then my favorite thing built in here is the looper. So this allows you to create like retrigger, beat repeat type effect. This is one of the main features of this plugin, the ability to kind of sequence these loops and retriggers and that kind of thing. It really adds that kind of like psytrance-y edge to what you're doing. So let's say, for example, the looper we can actually modulate as well. So we can have like a modulation that goes faster speed, and it like modulates downwards to a slower retrigger speed. Let's put this before the delay. And each of the lanes has got a mix setting over here. You've got actually various different settings. You've got a stereo offset as well, which is really nice to add extra width to something. And then if it's too drastic, you can always mix it back out again to kind of mix the original signal back in to kind of like lower the amount of effect that's happening. Okay, the next cool trick I want to show you with Infiltrator is for enhancing your percussion groups or percussion loops or groups, whatever you want. This is a really cool plugin for enhancing like the stereo. There's various ways you can do that, or also for creating interesting glitchy grooves and that kind of thing. So firstly, I want to show you a really nice trick of enhancing the stereo image of your percussion. So this is loaded onto my percussion group on a kind of full track. You'll hear there's like snares and all sorts of stuff going in here. So the effect that I want to use for this is decimator. So what this is doing is essentially bit crushing the sound. So what we can do is we can use this to kind of create noise out of this signal, and then we can use some stereo offset on that noise, so the left and the right channel are slightly different, and then we're going to mix it back into the original. Check it out. I want to combine this with a high pass filter, and then we can stereo offset this decimator effect. So then what we can do is we can use the global mix, and this is going to mix whatever effects are happening on this channel back into the original. So now what I want to do is I want to jump into the sequencer, and we can open it up all the way, and we can set it to like a fast speed, like 1/16. Here we want to make sure that the decimator is playing on all of them, as well as the high pass filter playing on all of them. Now we can arrange different like loopers as kind of glitchy effects to kind of re-trigger parts here and there to kind of create this rhythmic differences. So another interesting use of the Infiltrator plugin is to create transitions and breaks on either your kick and bass channel or the main output channel. So I've got something here which I've kind of pre-baked. It's a sequenced like long filter sweep with some glitches at the end. There's another feature inside Infiltrator which makes these kind of like transition breaky glitchy type things really, really cool. And that's the ability to re-trigger different effects using MIDI input. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that, but let's just have a quick look at this example which I've pre-baked here with a sequence. So it makes these kind of things super, super easy to do, and I'm sure you know that kind of effect. It's really, really popular for creating these kind of like psytrance-y transitions, like from one part into the next part, you know? So like I was saying, a really cool technique that we can do is, let me just initialize this, is we can set up a different effect on each of these and then trigger which effect is being played using the MIDI controller. So if we enable this, you'll see here that each of these slots changes, the name changes to C, C sharp, D, D sharp, etc. So if we set up a MIDI channel and we set the output to send to that instance of Infiltrator, we'll be able to trigger which note is being played at which time. So let's just search here Infiltrator, and it'll be the main output instance. So I guess it doesn't matter which octave you trigger on, it'll just trigger each of those effects. That's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and put in a different effect on each one, and we can use the MIDI controller to kind of audition what that effect sounds like on the master channel. So we can kind of stack up a whole bunch here and then, you know, re-trigger them as we listen. So now we could just like record that and play with it for a while and see, you know, what interesting kind of combinations of what we come up with. So I just want to duplicate this. And yeah, let's just record the input and play with this, see what happens. Okay, so number 4 on the list is interesting vocal chops. So here I've turned to the Xenosonics vocal pack again and just loaded up a bunch of random samples here. I'm going to throw Infiltrator onto this channel and we can play with glitching it up in interesting ways to create these psytrancey vocal glitch effects. So what I want to do is again just turn to the looper, and we can just punch in various different sequences and play around with how the sound is being looped and re-triggered. So what I want to do is I want to warp it so that more of the kind of like hits are on the beat, so we get more of the kind of like sound actually being re-triggered. Let's just bounce the entire selection of samples here. We can open it up and we can go musical mode, and then we can just warp it as we want.
Density of electromagnetic and gravitational frequencies that could be
So the last really interesting technique with Infiltrator is being able to turn almost anything into a synthesizer with the various effects that are built in here. Most interesting is the FM thing. So what is this? This is an effect. How does FM synthesis fall into an effects processor? So what this does is it basically frequency modulates the input using various signals that you can kind of generate within the plugin. So here I've got a bongo/conga loop, and we're going to try and make a kind of like cutting edge lead sound, stacking up a couple of these filters and seeing how interesting we can get. So let's load up this FM source and we can start playing around here. So here, if we set this little icon on, it basically allows you to see exactly what note or frequency you're tuning this selection to. So we can actually tune it to the specific root note of the track, which is G flat or F sharp. So the amount obviously controls the frequency modulation amount, and the character controls the kind of shape of the oscillator that you're frequency modulating this sound with. So just in the center you get a clean sine wave, so this kind of sounds the most like the kind of psytrancey kind of lead that we would trying to be trying to create. Awesome, that sounds great. So let's see what happens when we load up other samples in here. Let's see if it sounds just as good. Awesome. That's about it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Like I said, again, a big thanks to Devious Machines for sending me this plugin for the purpose of this video. If you guys enjoyed this video and you like this plugin, you're probably considering getting it, or you have got it already and you like my technique of using it, then please let me know in the comments. I'm always interested to hear what you guys say. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. See you guys next time. Cheers.